Hi and welcome to my Python YouTube channel. It's awesome to have you here. If you like this video, a thumbs up would be great. And make sure to subscribe for future videos. I also have a blog at prosperacoder.com with lots of cool stuff, so feel free to check it out. Here's another video in the Functions in Python series. If you haven't watched the previous parts yet, feel free to do so. Here they are: Introduction to Functions, Functions with Parameters, the Return Statement, Mandatory Parameters. Today we'll be talking about optional parameters. You can also read the written version of this video on my Python programming blog at prosperacoder.com. Apart from mandatory parameters, there are also optional parameters. Let's talk about them next. Optional parameters are also called default parameters. In the function definition, optional parameters are assigned default values. When we call the function, we don't have to pass the arguments corresponding to the optional parameters, which will be understood as passing the arguments with the default values. If we want to use different values for the optional parameters, we can use them just like the mandatory ones. Here's an example with just one parameter, which is an optional one. So the function is countdown, and here is the optional parameter down from, with the default value set to 10. Well, as I said, the down from parameter is optional. We can tell it by the fact that it is assigned a default value in the function definition. The default value is 10. Now here is the function body, very simple. It just prints the numbers from down from 10 or another value which is specified here, down to 0. We are using the range function here. As you remember, the last index is not included. And here is the step, which means we are going now down the numbers, so in the reversed order. And here we have the end parameter in the print function, which is used to put an empty string at the end of the string and not a new line character. If you want to learn more about the end parameter, I have a video on that too. Now we're calling the function countdown twice in our program, the first time without any arguments, the second time with one argument. Now if we call the function without any arguments, the default value will be used and the function will count down from 10 to 0. This is what happens when we call the function the first time here. If we want to use a different value at which the countdown is to start, we just pass it as an argument and it will override the default value. So here, this time, the countdown will go from 17 down to 0. And now, let's run this program. So when the function is called the first time, it counts down from 10 to 0. The second time from 17 to 0. Now we can have both mandatory and optional parameters in function definition. If they are both mandatory and optional parameters, all the mandatory parameters must come before the optional ones. Here's an example of such a function. Full name. This function takes 1, 2, 3, 4 parameters. Now as you can see, the first two parameters, first name and last name, are mandatory, so they must come first. Now we can tell these are mandatory parameters because they don't have any values assigned to them. Now then, title and middle name are optional parameters and have their default values set. Now this function is pretty straightforward. It returns name, which is a string created by concatenating these values passed as arguments to the function. And now we can call the function with at least the two mandatory arguments like here. These two arguments must be there because they are mandatory. Then we get the default title set to Mrs. and no middle name because middle name was set to an empty string. If we call the function with 3 arguments, then title will be the third argument. And here we will get the default middle name, which is an empty string again. If we call the function with all 4 arguments, we'll get also the middle name. In the last example, We want to pass a middle name to the function, but no title. The point is that we can't skip optional parameters. That's why we have to deliver an empty string for the title. Otherwise, Augustus would be understood as the title. And now let's run this program. And here's what we get. So the first time we called the function with two arguments, Alice Jackson, and this, Mrs., is the default title. The second time we use Doctor as the title, so we have Dr. Tom Williams. Then we have also the middle name, so we have Mr. Michael Stephen McCarthy. So here we have both the title and the middle name. Finally, we have Brian Augustus Daly. So here we have no title because we set it to an empty string. Good. Now, by the way, the lstrip function is used to get rid of all the white spaces on the left. If you want to learn more about this function and similar functions used to format strings, I have a video about them, so feel free to watch it. Okay, that's it for this video. If you like it, a thumbs up would be great. Also, make sure to subscribe for future videos. If you want to leave a comment or ask a question, you're welcome to do so. Thanks for watching.